What you're seeing is from India to Tajikistan, to Uzbekistan, to Turkmenistan, to Kazakhstan, to the Caspian Sea, to Azerbaijan, to Armenia, to the new nation of Kurdistan, and then the free country of Iran, and then Israel. You are now seeing an entire network of non brutal dictatorships cooperating or at least competing economically in a sustainable fashion. Iran is going to be a powerhouse as soon as we get rid of all of the sanctions on them. We're going to help them in every possible way that we can to become a really thriving nation. And Armin, I only know a couple of handfuls of Iranians here in the United States, and the diaspora, as you pointed out, here in the United States and in Europe, is only going to help investment flow into Iran. This is going to snuff out all of this bridge from Israel to the Caspian Sea over to India is going to be a wet blanket on the backstabbing fire that the Turks and the Saudis will try to conjure up. This is a moment, I'm gone for a week and I hear the optimism in your voices. And I have to tell you, I really see very, very soon actions happening before June 15th, before the desert hot season starts up in the Central Plateau. I see something definitive happening, but we'll do it at the time that we want. And I think that what's going on in Geneva right now is as Arakchi and all the other Iranians are speaking, I think honestly, Witkoff and Kushner and all the Americans are really looking at the sports page. They're not listening to a word the Iranians are saying. They're looking at the sports page, they're shopping online. They don't give a damn what the Iranians are saying. They just don't care what the Iranians are saying. It's a foregone conclusion what is about to unfold in Iran. But as I said, and BT, I appreciate you caretaking that information before I left, but there are not going to be 25 plus nuclear sites in Iran, full stop. They're going to be ringed by appropriate forces from the United States and from the United Nations, IAEA, and decommissioned. That's going to take 3 to 5 years. This is not something you can do with the theocracy in power, and nobody in the United States government is willing to allow those sites not to be decommissioned. I'm sorry I ran so long here, but I was thinking of so many
No, no,
things.
actually, can you do it a little bit longer? Can you explain to me the backstabbing that you mentioned? Can you explain that to me? Like, what are you
So,
referring to?
yeah, I mean, as soon as it became clear that U.S. CENTCOM forces were massing in a ring of fire, if you'll excuse the expression, around Iran rather than around Israel, as this anaconda is now squeezing Iran, the first thing that Saudi Arabia started doing was mouthing off about, yeah, you know what, we're going to talk to the Russians, we're going to talk to the Chinese, and we're not joining the Abraham Accords. Fine. His petrodollars and the economic crunch that he will be facing within the next 7 to 10 years is a fact of life. And they and the Turks are looking for any way to stir up trouble and maintain the old Middle East, which is disappearing right before their very eyes.
Gary, I have a question. There's a lot of trade routes that was supposed that would naturally would have went through Iran if it
Yes.
wasn't because of the Islamic Republic.
Yes.
And there's a lot of missed opportunity because of the past 47 years, because of these trade routes went above and below Iran and bypassed Iran. Are those lost forever, or as soon as the Islamic Republic falls, are we going to see the
Mm-mm-mm.
those trade routes going through Iran?
As soon as Ayatollah Khamenei's plane lands in Moscow or Beijing, wherever it's going to land, and as soon as they're all out of there, that is going to open up Iran very, very rapidly, I believe, to inclusion and becoming once again that main route for travel.
Mm.
I think
That's
Iran
going
is
to
going to
be
thrive.
uh, that's so nice to hear. I think like when I was listing the reasons why Iran is going to thrive, one of them that was missing is all of these trade routes, these economic corridors that are naturally are supposed to go through Iran. That is also going to bring a lot of wealth to in Iran as well. So that's another
Yeah,
thing that I need to.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially, the possibility exists that one day you will be able to drive your car without having a Blackwater contingency with you. You'll be able to drive from Tel Aviv all the way to Baghdad, and then from Baghdad into Iran. It's and even if you don't wanna go through Baghdad, you're gonna be able to go through Jordan and go
Mm,
into Iraqi Kurdistan, but it's gonna be Kurdistan independent.
mm,
That border between that presence of Kurdistan as an independent nation in right next to Iran, a free Iran, that
mm.
juxtaposition is gold for both countries.
But
Trade
I mean, all the economic activity in China and India, connecting all of that to Europe and Israel. I mean, without the Islamic Republic, a lot of that is supposed to go through Iran. So the giant economy of China and India, connecting that to Israel and Europe, Iran is the basically the thing that they all need to go through. No.
Well, so as you recall, last August, September, Iran, India, and Israel established that Made in India, Made in Israel pact. It's a huge deal. Kazakhstan wants in on that. The Kurds will want in on that as well. This is not going to be a point of conflict militarily. This is going to be a point of conflict economically. It's going to be a phenomenal engine that has the potential to do away with all the old, viperous behavior, that backstabbing garbage from the old Ottoman Empire and the old Caliphate. This is really, I, I, it really annoys my wife, but this, I hate to be the eternal optimist, but this is happening in front of your eyes right now. It's just
Yeah.
hard to
It's
see it sometimes.
Hope I can't wait to see that day, man. Can't wait to see that day.
Yeah,
thank you, Gary.
yeah.
And it's so great to have you back.
Thank you. I missed you all.
Mm.
Jeffrey, go ahead and chime in.
So I got one quick question for Colonel. I wanted you to bounce or elaborate because you talked about the spoiler part. My additional concern would be Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state and the Chi-Coms being spoilers after the Mueller regime goes down because they're pissed they lost their proxy. And not for nothing, the belt you're talking about, right? That goes from like Tel Aviv through Iraq, through Kirkuk to Tehran and all the rest of it, definitely would be more beneficial. Well, geographically, it's more tied to India-ish than it is as is China. Well, and that
Yes.
means that so you have a double whammy against the autocratic bloc. One is the Chinese
To
Communist Party
compete with
loses their
China.
proxy, and the second is now you're economically enabling the regional competitor, which is India, against the Chinese Communist Party. So I was wondering
Yeah.
if I could hear your thoughts on that part. Oh, and one
Yeah.
more thing with regards to stopping the insurgents that are, or the spoilers that are going to try and destabilize the transition. One of the things I'm almost done. Armin, I'm sorry. It's like the report is 300 pages so far, so I'm losing hair doing this. The United States has 20 plus years of counterinsurgency, and it would probably be really beneficial to set something up where you can have those people legally train elements of the broader Persian diaspora so that they can do the counterintelligence and Department of Homeland Security, the post Mullah regime IPP version of the Department of Homeland Security, so they don't have to worry so much, or at least they have the means to push back against that kind of destabilizing effort that's probably going to be pushed by Putin, Xi, and all the other scumbags.
And Jeff, I know you use that word with all due respect, that last word. Yeah. So so China and Russia just can't help themselves. It's just like Turkey and Saudi Arabia. They can't help themselves. They are what they are. And, it is what it is, and so they're gonna do whatever it is they're gonna do, but the real road to wealth is from Eastern Europe. It can bypass Turkey, that's not a problem, but then from Eastern Europe from Israel all the way east until you get to Bangladesh. This is gonna be one unified engine for economic competition that eventually Qatar and even the Saudis and the Turks are gonna have to say, WTF. We we see what you've been talking about. Capitalism is better than stabbing everybody in the back. It's gonna happen in some way, shape, or form. Yes, they have populations that are very difficult to deal with, but when people are making money and people are going on vacation to Iran, to India, to Kurdistan, to Azerbaijan, to Kyrgyzstan, to Israel, and they're skipping Turkey and Saudi Arabia. It's unsustainable, especially when petrodollars they're going to be instead of $120 a barrel, they're going to be getting about $35 a barrel because as you probably missed, and it didn't miss our ears. The first mini nuclear reactor was
Was put on the
transported
planet.
by the United States today from one Middle Eastern country to another Middle Eastern country. That's a very
Take
big
a
deal.
guess who played a role in developing some of that policy, Colonel.
So the thing that Saudi Arabia is now losing out on because they can't help acting the way they are is there's a corporation called the Bechtel Corporation, Bechtel. They're based in Reston, Virginia, but they also opened up a branch during the Trump first administration in Riyadh. And Bechtel is the company that built the first three Iranian nuclear reactors, and they were going to get licenses for 21 nuclear reactors from Qatar into Saudi Arabia, and those licenses have been stopped by the US federal government. This is a huge blow because they really thought they were going to get nukes from the US for energy use for their AI wet dreams. Now they're holding bags of sand that are getting less and less worth their weight in gold. Bottom line, Armin,
Okay.
I think Iran is just at the right point to make that switch from a theocracy to a constitutional monarchy.
So real quick,
You
because
know,
this
and
is
I
important.
also
Well, real quick, 'cause this is important. So, as you know, Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state is bumped up as destabilization efforts inside Europe via reconstituted elements of the Wagner Group. And almost assuredly, those exogenous meddlers are going to try and undermine the stability during the IPP transition phase. As you know, we have like 20 years experience in counterinsurgency. We could definitely help his Highness Reza Pahlavi set up Iran's version of Department of Homeland Security so we can minimize the impact of that meddling. Yes.
And Jeff, if I could say one thing that's different now as opposed to, the era, of Mossadegh and the Shah's father, is now the southern tier of Russia is no longer. It's now independent nations that have no intention of ever going back into the USSR. So there are these buffers that protect Iran from all this Russian nonsense. It's not easy for Russians to really integrate into Iranian society. They stand out so horribly. No disrespect intended,
um,
Armin, to the Russians.
I do wanted to mention that I always I this is as somebody who has been an activist against Islam, you might this might go against what I've been doing in the past decade or so, is that I do genuinely think the greatest force against Islam is economic activity. And so I think the greatest force against Islam is capitalism, because the more you give something to for people to live for, the more you remove the a reason for them to die for another life. So this is basically, to me, this is a competition between dunya and akhirah. So in the Quran completely dismisses dunya, which is this life, the life that we have, for the sake of akhirat, or we in Persian we say akhirat, which is the afterlife. And it always dismisses this world as a delusion, something not worth living for, something not worth fighting for, something not worth making an effort for. This is just a temporary place, that it's all just a game, that your entire focus should be on building your afterlife, because that is eternal, and this is just a temporary thing. And this is why Islam is such a cult of death, because it basically celebrates death and devalues life. And I think when it comes to well-being and improving people's lives, it's economic activity and prosperity, and that actually builds our life, that improves our well-being, that improves our condition. So when you give people something to build, something to look forward to make money, to be prosperous, to give their children a better life for the future, even if they are, nominally Muslim, they become less Islamic, because the dunya becomes more and more attractive than any shadowy idea of an akhirat. So I think capitalism makes people focus more on life rather than death. And I think that's why just improved economic activity is one of the greatest forces against Islam. Going
Well, history has proven you correct because, as you may recall, once the European powers started building these big ships that could go around the Middle East and bypass all that caliphate controlled territory, that was the beginning of the end of the economic life of the caliphate. And now, once Iran comes back into the picture, it becomes that hub of activity between Eastern Europe all the way to Eastern India. They're all 3.5 miles long, each of the runways that they have. They can be in China in about 6.5 minutes. Who needs to put boats around China? You've got the entire western flank where China is building up its military and nuclear capabilities 7 minutes away from a B-2 bomber flying over their airspace, which, God willing, will never have to happen. But this economic cooperation, in my Substack, I call it that crescent from Israel to India. That is the antidote to everything all these non-state terrorist groups have been trying to instigate with the help of Russian dollars and Chinese dollars and Iranian rials. This is what's before us right now. It is an incredible time in history right now, and we're not going to lose it.
Okay, next we have Steph.
Oh, hello. Hello.
Steph?
Hi. Can you hear me or no? No? You can't hear
Yeah,
me?
go ahead. Yeah,
Oh,
we
you
can
can.
hear you.
Sorry. Oh, I'm on a crap earphone. Okay. Oh my God, my question. I had three and they're not related, so maybe I should just pick one. One, just did you hear about the murder of the Tehran creator and producer in Athens this weekend by most likely by the IRGC? It's like very
No.
disturbing. You haven't heard about this?
No.
Oh my God. She
Oh,
won an Emmy.
yes, 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 the
Yeah.
Tehran. Okay, you mean the Tehran serial. Okay, so there's a
Sorry.
TV
Yeah.
series and it's yeah.
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's a TV let me just give context for other
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
There's a
Okay.
TV
Sorry, but there's a
series
delay.
called Tehran. It's an Israeli TV series, which is basically Mossad spies inside Iran. So the main actress there was
Mm,
apparently was
not the actress,
murdered.
but producer. The producer,
Producer.
the actual like creator producer. And she just won an Emmy. She's like so badass. It's really sad. Sorry,
And
yeah. Keep
you
going.
think, and is there evidence that the IRGC did that? I mean, everybody's suspecting them.
Yeah, it seems like there's such contradicting information and it's very much being it's like being covered, but not nearly enough. So I'm assuming it's like
Mm.
kind of being blocked from the media. But one person said, or her like that there was like foul play, like there was marks around her neck, and then other people said that there were pills. It's so suspicious that like she was there filming the fourth season of Tehran in Athens, which is where they've been filming, and it's everyone thinks it's IRGC. So I was just wondering if you heard anything about it in the Iranian spheres.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I haven't
Yeah,
heard
it's
anything.
such a good show too. They got the stupid, now I call them Palestine people, made it get blocked in America for like a year and a half, and they just re-released it on Apple TV. But anyways, so that happened. I think it's IRGC. It's fucked up
Mm.
because they're everywhere and they need to stop. Okay, so that was one question. My other question was, if I have can ask one other. I was someone was talking about how an Iranian Israeli professor who I listen to a lot, he was saying that he doesn't understand why, even though this huge, massive buildup is makes sense for the big like overthrow and you have to be prepared. But he said things like where the IRGC has all their like even motorcycles or weapons or like various things are like well known to the US and Israel, and like why those weren't taken out, and not really to go backwards, but why they weren't taken out back a month ago, or why they can't even just be taken out now. Because they're like, you see them now back on their whole like patrolling the streets and stuff, and I just wonder if what you think about that. Like, because is it just because they're afraid of retaliation? Because he seemed like this is so obvious and so easy, not easy to do, but could be done, and hasn't been done at all for the protesters yet.
Usually it's good to assume that if they're not doing something, they have a good reason for not doing it, because they obviously have a lot more information than we do. But also, they were like, the Americans were planning to do strikes immediately, but the Israelis convinced them apparently not to, because they thought such an attack. I mean, remember, it's not just about military capital; it's also about political capital, right?
Mm,
That you need to have, right? So if
mhm.
Americans did do any form of a strike, and then which wouldn't have resulted a limited symbolic strike that would have given maybe the Iranian people a little bit of a help, but wouldn't have toppled the regime, that would be the entirety of the political capital they had to spend on some strikes without it producing any results. And then that would be the end of it, because it didn't. Not only that, it's a form of strikes that doesn't actually uh, demonstrate. It could drag, it didn't fall, it didn't make the Islamic Republic fall,
Right.
but then, and it doesn't demonstrate any benefit to the Americans, because the Islamic Republic did not fall.
Yeah, I keep forgetting we
So
have to care about the Americans as an American. Like, I
yeah,
just want to save
you're
lives, but
American yourself, yeah. Yeah. So I mean, as an American taxpayer, you would be like, okay, why did we exactly do that? Like, we didn't top like, the regime is not toppled, they're still oppressing their people. And now the Islamic Republic is retaliating, so we're involved. You basically risk us getting involved into something without actually any meaningful outcome, right? And I mean,
yeah,
even by
I feel
that
like
point, a lot of Iranians will start
oh,
getting
sorry.
angry regarding how symbolic and limited that attack was. So
You, you
Israel
know
is
how
like
like
Israel.
Mossad does. Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
This
no, go ahead.
delay is so bad. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, Israel was like, if we're gonna go in, let's do it right. Like, let's finish the job. Let's make sure that we
Which
topple the
I
regime. So that's why
support.
they're preparing for
Okay.
something bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I was just, you know how we've seen like the gas spills or fires or like those things like that that aren't, I don't know, I'm assuming they're CIA or Mossad or someone, but like if we like took out one of, I guess this is all theoretical, it just seems like now that I'm like seeing them supposedly kind of going on this second round of murder, like we could get rid of like those kind of strikes don't mean that we're not doing anything else. And honestly, like America, I don't even think would notice. So I just wonder. And I also heard something
So,
positive. I'll just add that, and I hope it's true, that the major thing that they're preparing for, this could just totally be just conspiracy, is like it's like a massive cyber, not cyber, but like more than cyber, that like can take out so much of the threat, and that's
So,
why they haven't
Steph,
done.
I don't know how because I think there are other people on the list. I don't know. BT, could you put the
That's all.
list?
No, that was
Yeah,
my other
yeah,
question.
yeah.
Sorry.
But
That's all.
no, that's okay. That's okay. But what was your last point?
If you heard anything more about like the fact that actually like the delay could also be related to like this massive cyber attack that America is hopefully planning, not in like a to expose it way, but just trying to
I think
understand.
cyber
Yeah,
is going to be part of it, but they're preparing
part
for
of
so much more, and
it.
they don't want to. They don't want to give the Islamic Republic the impression that there's no room for negotiation, because the Islamic Republic might want to start the war earlier if they realize that there's no way out of this, and that would reduce like the ability for the United States to start the war with full preparation. So basically, doing anything earlier would basically mean that the war will, like, because it's not that you could just do a limited strike and then sit back and then nothing happens, right? A limited strike means that maybe the Islamic Republic will basically start the full scale war, which then will basically, it starts a chain reaction that everything will just get started, and then the 11 countries that I mentioned in the region are not yet ready to be defended.
That
Does that
makes
make
a lot
sense?
of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of
Right.
sense.